Hey guys. So, as some of you might know if you follow me on social media, me and one of my best friends decided that because we couldn't see each other in person, we would start this virtual fitness tag game to keep ourselves motivated, keep ourselves moving, keep our bodies happy, and also kind of feel like we can hang out. I'm used to seeing her like every single week, and now I can't. So this has really helped. She decided to take me over the weekend to just play with an inversion practice. So she is made out of brick and stone, and she held a handstand for who knows 5 minutes. I wasn't counting. Who was counting? But I decided, well, why not share what my warm up process is for starting to play with things like inversions. And although I can't have a headstand practice anymore because I have a prolapsed disc in my neck, forearm stand and handstand are still really great and beneficial practices. And I actually think forearm stand provides a lot more stability for the shoulders. So I'm going to share with you just a short kind of class workshop-y setup towards warming up to start to get upside down, and what do you have to target, what parts of the body, what should you be focusing on if you're not doing a full vinyasa practice and hitting all of the main parts of the body through that. So we're going to start just laying on our backs, so coming into a reclined position. And if you have a yoga block, I recommend bringing it with you just for having an object to really start to target the inner thighs. If you don't have a yoga block, really anything that you can place between the legs and kind of squeeze that's going to keep the knees about hip distance apart for this is going to work just fine. So beginning in kind of a setup for a bridge pose, we won't be going there quite yet. Let's just bring the arms out to a T and just rock the knees right to left a few times. So if this is your first time moving for today, we want to make sure that we take time to warm up the body, start to feel things out, start slowly and build up to the more challenging parts of the practice. So just nice, easy, side to side. You can connect the breath with these movements, inhaling the knees up through center and exhaling to rock them to the side. And if it feels good to pause on either side, feel free to pause for an extra round of breath. And then we'll meet with the knees up towards the ceiling. Pulling the heels in a little bit closer towards the pelvis. Make sure the feet are about hip distance apart. And we're just going to start with a little bit of core awareness. So really starting to focus on what muscles start to move the pelvis, tilt the pelvis, where do we feel this in the body? And especially when we start to move the pelvis and engage the front body, what does that do to the back body? So finding the front hip points on the pelvis, and then just noticing where the low back is in relationship to the floor already. So do you feel your low back flattening down onto the floor? Do you have a little bit more of a natural curve to the low back, and is it lifting away from the floor? Just notice that with the belly nice and soft. Noticing the current tilt of the pelvis before we start to manipulate it at all. Let's take a deep breath in here. And a deep breath out. Let's take one more inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to pull the front hip points up towards the low ribs and intentionally flatten the low back down onto the floor. So feel those front abdominal muscles engaging here to create that length in the low back. Make sure the back of the heart is grounded onto the mat. Shoulders are relaxed here. Just holding this for a moment, just connecting with those core muscles down there. And you can still breathe even as we engage some of the deeper abdominals. And then on an inhale, go ahead and release it. Just let things relax. Maybe you feel the front hip points pull a little bit further away from the low ribs. Maybe the low back lifts a little bit away from the floor. So we're going to add on to this while maintaining that core engagement down there. So let's take an inhale. As you exhale, flatten the low back. Find that gentle tilting of the pelvis. Holding that, maintaining that action and that strength, we're going to start to float the right knee above the right ankle, just creating a right hip, creating a 90-degree angle at the knee joint. Keeping this belly drawing in. Left foot can stay on the floor. And then on an inhale, lengthen the right leg forward. Keep the low back flat on the mat. This is going to add a little bit more challenge for those muscles. And then as you exhale, we'll draw it back in. Inhale, lengthen it forward. Keep those core muscles strong. Exhale, draw it back in. One more time, inhale, lengthen it forward. Keep pulling the belly in. Exhale, draw it back in. And then lower the right foot down onto the mat. Inhale, release the core. Let the low back lift away from the mat. Find your natural curve. Just relax for a moment. Let's take another inhale. And as you exhale, once again, flatten the low back. Pull those front hip points up. And then maintaining that action in the lower abdominals, float the left knee above the left hip. And we'll keep a 90-degree bend in the left knee here. So again, core stays nice and firm, nice and strong here. On an inhale, lengthen the left leg forward. Keep gripping the belly. Exhale, draw the knee back in. Inhale, lengthen it forward. Exhale, draw it back in. Don't lose that contact between the low back and the floor. Inhale, lengthen it forward. Exhale, draw it back in, and then lower the left foot down onto the mat. Go ahead and release the belly. Let it relax for a moment. So that starts to give us a little bit of awareness around the lower abdominals, but we also want to really target the muscles that help us to knit together the low ribs. So still working with the abdominals. The one thing that we have a tendency to do, especially if your core is a little bit weaker when we get upside down, is to kind of let the low ribs flare forward and fall into more of a back bend or that banana back shape. So if we can start to figure out how to control these muscles consciously, or at least build some awareness around them, they can help to alleviate that dumping into the back or that curving, that extension in the low back when we get upside down. So from here, feet will stay on the mat. Draw the belly in, flatten the low back, and then from there, just start to do a tiny little crunch. So we're just going to look towards the navel, feel those low ribs start to draw together. And you can even take your fingertips, find just the bottom of the sternum and those ribs that kind of come out from there, and just encourage them, press them together, feel the muscles around them. Maintain that. Just hold it here. Belly draws in, low ribs knitting together, feeling those muscles. Let's take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and release everything down. Relax. Good. So adding both of those areas in together. Let's float the knees above the hips, 90-degree bend at the knee joint. Start to pull the belly in, flatten the low back down onto the floor. And then from there, we'll do that little crunch. So we're squeezing those front low ribs together. Maintain that. Don't lose contact with the low back and the floor. On an inhale, kick the legs forward. Exhale, draw them back in. Inhale, kick them forward. Exhale, draw them back in. Don't lose that connection. Inhale, kick them forward. Exhale, draw them back in. Let's do two more. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And then release. Just squeeze the knees in towards the chest for a moment. You can rock side to side. Relax through the abdominals. Good, so we've got that core control. And then begin to rock and roll yourself forward and back, just rolling along the length of the spine a couple of times. This can feel good, like a massage on the back. Just starting to stimulate those muscles, starting to warm them up a little. And let's do it one more time. Good. And then maintaining that reclined position, we're going to grab a hold of the block or whatever prop you have to kind of place between the thighs. Heels nice and close, feet hip distance apart. Place the block between the thighs and then squeeze it. So we're building up a little bit of awareness of the inner thighs, building some strength there. Another thing that can start to happen, especially if we're still kicking up into our inversion, is the hips just kind of flop open. So when you get that open hip position lifting up, if you don't have control of the core, if you can't pull it back in, sometimes that momentum can start to roll you all the way over, and then we fall out of it. If we can start to really engage the inner thighs, and as Americans, we're all pretty weak on the inner thighs, then we can start to pull the pelvis square again and really control that momentum getting up into our inversion. So pressing down into the soles of the feet, just squeezing the block, just squeezing here. And then on an inhale, float the hips up just a couple of inches towards a bridge pose, still squeezing the block. We're going to pull those front hip points up towards the low ribs. So again, we're engaging through those core muscles, and just feel that nice line of energy from the adductors, the inner thighs, all the way up through the core of the body. Let's take an inhale here. As you exhale, release the hips down, float the legs up. Inhale, extend the legs forward, keep squeezing the block. Exhale, knees back in, lower the feet down. Inhale, float the hips up, squeeze the block, pull the front hip points up. Exhale, lower the hips, lift the feet. Inhale, extend the legs forward, squeeze the block. Exhale, draw them back in, lower the feet. Inhale, float the hips, pull the belly in, squeeze the block, lower the hips, float the feet. Inhale, extend the legs forward. Exhale, knees in, lower the feet, remove the block, and relax. Whew. You can bring the soles of the feet together, drop the knees open wide, just get a little stretch through the adductors. Slow down for a moment. Let's take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Stay here, or maybe interlace the fingers above the head, bending at the elbows. Maybe grab opposite wrists or forearms. If it's accessible, grab opposite elbows. Try to let the forearms relax down onto the floor. Couple of breaths. Let's take one more inhale here. And exhale. Release the arms down by your sides. Let's bring the knees together, feet on the mat. And then from there, you can lift yourself up to a seated position. And we'll pause for a second here, just finding a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. Sit up tall. Just get grounded through the sits bones. And we're going to bring the left fingertips down. Inhale the right arm up. And as you exhale, lean over. Just coming into a side stretch. Try to keep that right sits bone grounded. Opening up through the side body, opening up through the shoulder blade, so getting some rotation into the shoulder. If you've got tight shoulders and those muscles aren't willing to open up as you reach up overhead, you're going to find limited range of motion through the shoulder joint, and that's when we start to kind of flare the low ribs out because we compensate for that lack of range of motion in the spine. So if we can open up through the shoulders, make sure we've got lots of stretching, lots of flexibility in there, that'll help us keep the core intact. On an inhale, let's reach back up. Exhale the right fingertips down. Inhale the left arm up, and as you exhale, lean it on over. And again, staying nice and grounded through the left sits bones. Let this be about opening up through the side body. Relax through the thighs, relax through the legs, relax through the hips. And again, really just creating that range of motion through the shoulder. Stretching through the side body. Just preparing for the arms to be able to easily reach up overhead. And then on an inhale, go ahead and reach back up. And exhale, release the left fingertips down. Inhale both arms up towards the ceiling. From here, we're going to bend into the right elbow, grab a hold of it with the left hand, and just nice and easy, lift it up towards the ceiling. So getting a little tricep stretch. And if you already notice those low ribs flaring forward as you stretch into the tricep on that right side, again, we want to try to knit together those low ribs. Pull the front hip points up just slightly here so we can feel the front core engaging and stabilizing. And that might mean that that elbow doesn't lift quite as high, and that's okay. On an inhale, reach back up, and as you exhale, other side, bending into the left elbow. Grab a hold of it with the right hand, just a gentle lift up towards the ceiling, pulling the low ribs in, pulling the low belly in, just staying stable. And then inhale, reach up towards the ceiling. Exhale, release the arms down. Let's transition into tabletop. So now really focusing on the shoulders and building strength and stability around the shoulders. From our tabletop, wrists below shoulders, knees below hips. Just play with finding that inner elbow crease, spiral it forward, feel that in the shoulders, and then spiral it in, feel that in the shoulders. And notice the placement of the shoulders as you do this. Notice what muscles you feel engaging. Just keep rotating into the arms. The hands can stay stable. The radius and the ulna can twist over each other to create this movement. So the position that we want to try to maintain is spiraling those inner elbow creases forward. And you'll feel some muscles, our external rotators in the shoulders, begin to kick in here. Grip into the fingertips. Hands for handstands are going to be really important. You want to make sure you're really pressing down to the base of that index finger, base of the thumb, gripping into all 10 fingertips. And from here, inner elbow creases spiraling forward. Shift the weight forward so you feel a little bit more weight towards the fingertips, and then shift it back. Just strengthening the hands and the forearms here. Shift it forward, shift it back, shift it forward, shift it back. Good. Moving up the arm a little bit. We'll stay connected through the hands. We'll keep those inner elbow creases spiraling forward, and then do some scapula push-ups. So we're going to press the back of the heart up towards the ceiling, and you'll feel the scapula spread apart on the upper back. And then keeping the elbow straight, just lower the chest down. Think about squeezing the shoulder blades towards each other. Again, keeping those inner elbow creases spiral forward. Let's spread them apart, pressing the back of the heart up, and then dropping the heart down, squeezing them together. Lift up, lower down. Lift up, lower down. Find neutral here. If you need to take a break on the hands, child's pose is always a good one. You can just kind of make fists, roll the wrists around, take breaks whenever you need to so you're not stressing out the hands or the wrists, especially if you start to lose form and shift a lot of your weight onto the base of the palm. All right, so we're going to do those scapula push-ups, but now adding in a little bit more that the body has to think about. So gripping into fingertips, getting nice and grounded through the base of the index finger and the thumb, inner elbow creases spiral forward. Start with the heart lifting gently up towards the ceiling, and then let's extend the right leg straight back behind. Feel the adductor kick in on that right side, so the leg shouldn't be flaring out. It should be pressing in towards the midline. Press through the heel so the leg is nice and active, and then pull the belly in. That'll mean the leg can't go quite as high. That's okay. We're going to try to pull the front hip point up towards the low ribs. Stay firm through the core. Let's take an inhale. Exhale, scapular push-up. We're going to lower the heart down. Inhale, press back up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, press up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, press up, and exhale the right knee down. If you need to pause on the wrists, go ahead and take a pause, wiggle them around a little bit. We're going to move into the other side. So setting up the upper body, extend the left leg straight back behind you. And again, adductors engaged here to keep that leg drawing in towards the midline. It's not going to cross the body, but we're just making sure that it's not flaring out to the side. Really press through the left heel, pull the front hip points up, engage through the belly, inner elbow creases spiral forward, and then exhale, lower down, inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down, inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down, inhale, lift up. Exhale the left knee down. Go ahead and take a child's pose. Turn the palms up towards the ceiling. Rest the forehead down. And you can make fists. Just wiggle around in the fingers to release any tension on the wrists. Good. So all of these exercises are things that you can do multiple times, and you can do as many reps as you want. This is just an introduction to these exercises that are going to create a more stable foundation for your inversions. So coming back to tabletop, we're going to lower down to our forearms, elbows under shoulders. Belly is firm here, so we're not just dumping into the low back. We're creating some stability. Forearms parallel to each other on the mat. And then turn the palms up towards the ceiling. This might already start to engage muscles here. Then we're going to float the forearms away from the mat just a couple of inches. Palms are still faced up towards the ceiling. And if it helps you, you can kind of make the hitchhiker thumb, and we're going to press the thumbs away from each other. So we're rotating the forearms out, both of them. And just notice what you feel here. Notice the muscles that engage to create that action. Hold it and breathe. These muscles should be getting somewhat tired pretty quickly. Let's take one more inhale. Exhale, release the backs of the hands down, bringing the forearms back to neutral. Pause for a moment. And then we can turn the palms down into the mat. And we're going to tuck the toes, lift the hips, and just make your way into dolphin pose. Walking the feet in as close as you're comfortable going. And press down into the elbows, press down into the forearms as though you were trying to press your hips away from you by pressing into the hands. So feel the muscles engaging here. Belly draws in, low ribs draw in. We're pressing down into the forearms, down into the elbows. You can look between the forearms or just let the head hang out. Taking some breaths is a great place to hold and just build stability in the shoulders. Let's take a deep breath in, deep breath out. One more inhale, and then exhale, lower the knees down. Once again, just returning to child's pose. Just let things relax for a moment. Give yourself a break. And then grabbing a hold of yoga blocks or props, anything you have available to you, just coming into another stretch just to start to open up our range of motion in the shoulders. Forearms can come onto the blocks, and then you're going to sink the head down to the mat. So just coming into a child's pose with a little bit more rotation happening in the shoulders here. And if you want to intensify this at all, bring the elbows up onto the blocks and bring the palms together to touch. So coming into reverse prayer hands, you can bring the thumbs to the back of the neck or shoulders here. And just staying nice and soft through the heart. Let's take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then releasing the hands forward if you brought them into reverse prayer. Go ahead and lift yourself back up. And we'll make our way into down dog. Feet hip distance apart. Take a moment to pedal out your dog if you need to. Again, if this is your first practice, if you haven't moved much today, we want to give a little bit of time for the backs of the legs to warm up. Certainly having pretty open hamstrings can help you get into, with control, your inversion just by lifting one leg up towards the ceiling. And if you can already start to stack the hips above the shoulders for whatever inversion you're taking, openness in the backs of the legs will help you get there. So let's take a couple more breaths here. You can lengthen down through the heels. Down dog is also a good one to hold just for building that nice stability through the shoulders. On an inhale, go ahead and reach the right leg up towards the ceiling. Keep softening the left heel down towards the mat. Adductor on that right leg engaged. So we're not opening up through the hips. We're drawing that right hip down, inner thigh towards the midline. Let's take an inhale here. As you exhale, squeeze the right knee in towards your chest. Hold and step between the hands. Lowering the left knee down to the mat. So again, really starting to get into the hamstrings a little bit. If you want to grab blocks here, you can. We're just going to move in and out of our low lunge and our half splits. So lengthening the heart forward. Let's take an inhale here. And as you exhale, pull the hips back. Flex into that right foot. Inhale to rebend. And exhale to straighten. Inhale, rebend. Exhale, straighten. Pause here. If you want to bring the hands under the shoulders, you can. Again, flexing through that right foot. Reaching the heart forward, folding in any amount that's comfortable here. And then inhale, rebend the right knee. From there, let's step it back. Find your plank pose. pausing here, inner elbow spiraling forward, belly draws in. Try to really lift those front hip points towards the low ribs. See if you can figure out what that action feels like when we're not on our backs now. Lifting between the shoulder blades, gripping into the fingertips. Take an inhale, and then exhale the hips back, down dog. On an inhale, let's reach the left leg up towards the ceiling, right heel pressing down towards the mat. And again, trying not to roll that left hip up towards the ceiling. So adductors on that left leg engaged to really draw the leg in towards center. Let's take an inhale here. And then as you exhale, left knee comes in towards the chest. Hold it for a second, feel the core, and then we'll step it between the hands. Lower the right knee down to the mat. If you want to grab blocks here, you can. Any props you need. And continuing to get into the back line of the legs. So let's take an inhale in our low lunge. And then exhale, pull the hips back, half splits, flexing into that left foot. Inhale to bend. And exhale to straighten. Inhale to bend. And exhale to straighten, and let's hold. If you want to bring the hands under the shoulders, you can. Trying to reach forward through the heart and folding in any amount that feels right here. And on an inhale, let's rebend the left knee. And lifting up the right knee, go ahead and step to the top of the mat. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, circle the arms, come all the way up to standing. And exhale, hands to the heart. Nice. So let's inhale, reach up. Exhale the left arm down, reach the right arm up and over. So again, returning to those side stretches here. Draw the belly in, make sure you're supporting the low back, but you can kind of press the right hip out a little bit. Give yourself some support on that left leg. On an inhale, let's reach up. We're going to bring the arms out to the horizon and just continue to wrap the right arm under the left. So coming into our eagle arms. Just finding a little stretch and a little opening between the shoulder blades here. Palms can press together, backs of hands can press together, or you can just give yourself a big hug, grabbing opposite shoulders. So you decide what feels more comfortable for you. Let's take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Inhale, unwrap the arms, reach up. Exhale the right arm down, reach the left arm up and over. Again, finding that side stretch, belly firming up to support the low back. You can kind of press the left hip out, really lengthening down the left side. And then on an inhale, bring it back up, reach the arms out to the horizon, and we're just going to continue to spiral that left arm under the right, coming into our eagle arms on this side, whether you're giving yourself that big hug, pressing palms together, or backs of hands. And then find some breath between the shoulder blades. Breathe into the back of the heart. And then inhale, unwrap the arms, reach up, and exhale, fold it forward. Inhale into your half lift. As you exhale, let's bend the knees, coming into our chair pose. So just start with hands at the heart. You can stay right here. If you love chair, you can get all the engaging happening, stay here. If you want to add some adductor awareness, just bring a block between the thighs. Feet hip distance apart and squeeze in. We're squeezing that block. Let's really wake up those muscles. Keeping the heart lifted, inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, let's lower down halfway, reach the arms back behind. So just coming into airplane arms. And just moving in and out of this. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, lower down halfway, airplane arms. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, lower down halfway, airplane arms. 2 more. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale, and let's interlace fingers behind the back. Press the knuckles away from you. You can straighten into the legs and just fold forward any amount here. Rolling the shoulders open. And take one more inhale. As you exhale, release the hands slowly down to the earth. You can remove the block from between the legs. Inhale into your half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, circle the arms, come back up to standing. And exhale, hands to the heart. All right. So from here, you're ready to start to get into, at the very least, handstand and shoulder stand. There's a lot more I would do for headstand just to start to prepare the neck to bear some weight, some stretches, and some strength tests to see if you're really in a good place to support your body weight on the neck and holding it through the shoulders. But remember, when we start to get upside down, you really want to try to keep the spine nice and stacked all the way up. So front hip points lifting up, lower abdominals cued in, low ribs drawing in. So we've got this nice sheath here that's strong, firm, holding the spine strong and firm. From there, adductors, so legs aren't flopping all over, especially if we start to kick up, and some mobility through the shoulders. And as you reach the arms up overhead, just be conscious of those low ribs starting to flare forward. So we want to make sure we pull them back in. Fight that urge to open up through the heart. Keep the low ribs knitting in towards each other. I've always liked that term, knitting. And then from here, handstand, forearm stand, headstand. All right, thank you guys so much. Quick and dirty on inversions. Hope you enjoy.